and they have to live up to the expectations that are given to them. And this will serve as a little bit of character development when we later on get them to a space where they both feel that they can be comfortable being themselves and they can be comfortable not doing exactly what's expected of them and living the lives that they want to live. We can also use this time to examine that mirror between Vanessa and Bryn, as they both exhibit the worker bee mentality, Bryn on a more literal sense, but they both feel very constrained to these rules that have been placed upon them and the expectations of their positions in this world. And then we'll see later on in the movie, as we break this down, to a space where it is okay for them to be the boss bitches. However, there has to be some balance in between, and that's what they ultimately learn in the movie. But back to Barry, once he does get to the beekeeping farm, he would be horrified because we see that Ken's family aren't the most ethical of beekeepers. They don't treat their bees very well, and the bees are not flourishing in their artificial hives. So Barry would decide that he would need to do something to make sure that other bees aren't subjected to the same fate. And in this instance, Barry would go to the queen of the hive to report what he's seen in the outside world. Now, the queen of the hive would absolutely be hesitant to believe that all of this is happening, but eventually she would come to. But her way of dealing with the issue would actually be to retract some of her own worker bees to make sure that they are not caught and placed into artificial hives. She would demand that the drone bees not leave the hive anymore, and she would reprimand Barry for breaking the rules. She would also demand to know who helped him break these rules, and by now, Barry and Bryn have developed somewhat of a love connection, and so Barry would not want to out Bryn, so he would take the fall himself. But in order to save the hive and protect the rest of the bees, the queen bee would spread the word to the other queen bees by leaving the hive to let them know of what's going on with the artificial hives and the beekeeping, and thus this would cut down on the population of worker bees that are sent out of the hive for the protection of the entirety of the hive. And because the queens would cut down on the worker bees that go out of the hive, we would still see some of the same effects seen in the original bee movie. We would see less pollination of flowers, which would mean that Vanessa's flower shop would suffer a little bit financially. We would also see less pollination of fruit and vegetables and the plants that are needed to give them life. And so we would still get that same theme of the movie that lets us know that everything is interconnected and the bees do play an important role in growth and pollination and plant life in general. But during this point in the movie, we would also see Barry and Bryn come to terms with their feelings with each other and also with the individual conflicts that they've been facing in the movie. We would see a sad and confined Barry understand that life on the outside world isn't just one big party. There are responsibilities that need to be taken into consideration, and there are some things that are not so pleasant about the outside world. And we would also see a Bryn that is realizing that life can't just be about pollination, 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 and nectar, and that some rules are meant to be broken for the greater good. And we'd also see Vanessa and Ken's relationship growing as they're both coming to terms with what they've been doing in life and how they need to change in order to strengthen their relationship and strengthen their individual aspirations and ambitions. Now, because the flowers are dying and because pollination is becoming a clear issue, we would see the humans convene to decide that they need to look into artificial pollination, which basically means that they need to start capturing hives and making sure that the bees pollinate